What if I told you that beneath one single country lies more oil than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than the United States, yet its people struggle to buy bread? What if I told you this oil has toppled governments, invited foreign interference, triggered sanctions, secret deals, black markets, and proxy power games between the world's biggest nations? This is not just about fuel. This is about power, survival, control. Today, we are entering the heart of one of the greatest contradictions on Earth. Venezuela, the country floating on an ocean of oil. And the question is, why is Venezuelan oil so important that the world refuses to look away? Venezuela possesses the largest proven oil reserves on the planet. Not second, not third. Number one, over 300 billion barrels of oil. Enough to fuel the world for years. Enough to make Venezuela one of the richest nations in human history. And yet, it became one of the most economically broken. This paradox alone makes Venezuelan oil important. But the real story goes far deeper. Because Venezuelan oil is not just oil. It is strategic oil. Political oil, geopolitical oil. Oil that sits at the crossroads of energy security, global power, and future resources. Most countries dream of oil discoveries. Venezuela doesn't dream. It drowns in it. The Orinoco Belt alone holds one of the largest continuous petroleum deposits ever found. This sheer scale matters because it can influence global oil prices. It can shift OPEC's internal power, and it can change who controls energy flows to entire continents. When Venezuela pumps at full capacity, it doesn't just earn money, it reshapes markets. Every barrel added or removed can ripple through U.S. gas prices, European inflation, Asian manufacturing, global shipping, and even military logistics. This is why Venezuela never stopped being relevant, even when its economy completely collapsed. Now, Venezuelan oil is mostly heavy crude. It's thick, dense, and difficult to refine. And that actually makes it strategically unique. Only certain refineries in the world, especially in the United States, China, and India, are built to process it. Which means whoever controls Venezuelan oil also controls who gets access to it. This turns oil into leverage. A bargaining chip, a pressure tool. That's why sanctions hurt so deeply. And that's also why backdoor deals never really stopped. Even at the peak of political hostility, Venezuelan oil kept flowing, quietly, because global systems are built around it. Not emotionally, structurally. For decades, Venezuela was one of America's top oil suppliers. The shipping distance was short, the refineries were compatible, and the flow was stable. Venezuelan oil wasn't just some foreign oil, it was system oil inside the U.S. energy network. When relations collapsed, the U.S. didn't just lose a supplier, it lost a perfectly matched fuel source. Replacing Venezuelan heavy crude isn't easy. It requires expensive refinery upgrades, different blends, and entirely new logistics chains. That is why, even today, Venezuelan oil remains quietly relevant in Washington. Because energy independence isn't just about having oil, it's about having the right oil. And when the West pulled back, others moved forward. China invested tens of billions into Venezuelan oil. Russia sent engineers, equipment, and military cooperation. This wasn't out of charity. It was a long-term energy strategy. China sees Venezuelan oil as a future supply line, a debt-backed resource, and a foothold in the Western Hemisphere. Russia sees it as a pressure point near the U.S., a strategic alliance zone, and an energy chess piece. Venezuela's oil turned the country into a geopolitical dock where superpowers quietly anchor their influence. This is why Venezuela is never just a domestic story. It is always international. Oil made Venezuela rich fast. Too fast. For decades, oil funded everything. Free education, cheap food, massive subsidies, political loyalty, and military expansion. But oil also replaced diversification. Agriculture weakened. Manufacturing shrank. Innovation slowed down. The nation didn't build an economy. It built a pipeline. And when oil prices fell, the entire system collapsed. There was no backup, no shock absorbers, no secondary engines to power the country. This is why Venezuelan oil is so important historically. It became one of the world's clearest examples of a resource dependence turning into a national vulnerability. In Venezuela, oil is not just income. It is power, oxygen. Oil revenue pays for soldiers, for imports, for surveillance, for political alliances, and for international negotiations. As long as the oil flows, the state breathes. As long as the state breathes, the leadership survives. This is why oil facilities are protected like palaces, why pipelines are militarized, and why sanctions target petroleum first. Because whoever controls Venezuelan oil, controls the very heartbeat of the nation. The world talks a lot about green energy, but reality moves slower. Planes still fly on oil. Ships still burn oil. Armies still depend on oil. Factories still run on oil. And when global instability rises, nations don't ask about solar panels. They ask about secure crude. Venezuela's reserves represent emergency capacity, market shock buffers, and long-term supply insurance. In a future shaped by wars, climate disruptions, and power competition, Venezuelan oil isn't past its relevance. It is future leverage, not because it fuels cars, but because it fuels systems. Economic systems, military systems, political systems, alliance systems. Venezuela is not important because it is powerful. Venezuela is important because what it sits on is powerful. And the world still runs on what lies beneath its soil. Venezuela is a warning, a treasure chest, a battleground, and a reminder that in our modern age, you can lose industries, you can lose currency, you can lose stability. But if you still control energy, the world will never stop watching you. Because nations rise and fall, but oil still moves empires. And beneath Venezuela, an ocean still waits. Thanks for watching. If you found this story compelling, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss our next deep dive into the forces shaping our world. See you in the next one.